Hello and welcome, Mark here, and in this episode we're going to take a look at decreasing. And as you see, I have a swatch already ready to go to show you how to decrease. Now, decreasing is a part of shaping, and in all these basic videos I'm showing are all to do with the beginner levels, so shaping is a part of that, I'm afraid. Especially if you want to make things like sweaters, cardigans, hats, gloves, anything really that requires shaping. So let me just check my notes here so I don't get this wrong. Your together stitches, and that is stitches where you would knit 2 together or 3 together, those are a right leaning decrease, so they tend to lean to the right. The other decreasings are your SKPO and your SSK. Those tend to lean to the left. So it all depends on which side you're decreasing, really, to what your decreasing pattern will say. And then the other decreasing, of course, is casting off stitches, where you may have you cast off a few stitches at one end, then a few stitches on the other end, or maybe even central decreasing. So with all that said and done, let's have a look at the casting off. I think we'll look at those first, because you would come to those when you're doing sleeves, and you'll get to a certain point when it will say cast off so many stitches at the beginning of the next 2 rows. So we'll look at those first. So with all that said, let's get crafting. Right, your casting off decreases. If you're looking at your pattern and it tells you to cast off 3 stitches at the beginning, you would have to knit 2 stitches before you can take 1 off, and you go 1, 2, and then 3. And as you'll see, you will still have a stitch on your right hand needle, and you will always count that if it stays in the pattern work 6 stitches and then do this, or work 10 stitches and then do something else. You would count that stitch as part of the stitches that you need to work. But just for sake, we're saying that you come to a pattern where it says cast off 3 stitches at the beginning of the next 2 rows. So once you've done your first casting off, you would just knit to the end of the row. And I don't think I'll bore you to let you sit there watching me knit. So we'll come back to you when I get to the end of this row. Right, so that is knitting to the end of the row. Now we need to turn and cast off 3 stitches at the beginning of this row. And to cast off 3 stitches at the beginning of this row, you will still need again to work 2 stitches. Now on this side you're on the wrong side, so you're on the purl side, so you need to purl 2 and then lift that stitch up and over and off. That's 1 done. 2 done. I'm sorry, my yarn was splitting there. And then the 3rd and final one. There you go. And that is casting off 3 stitches at the beginning. And then it would say again, knit to the end of the row, or should say purl to the end of the row. When I get back to the right side, I shall show you how to do the together knits. Sorry, my needle's tapping on the table. This is not my usual table I use. That's being used at the moment for something else. Right, and there we go. Yeah, so after you're casting off at each end, you will have something that would look like that, and that is the beginning of your shaping. So next up we will look at the 2s together or 3s together. They're quite easy to do, those ones, so we'll get those done next. Okay, we're back. Right, so what we're going to do now is look at the together stitches. We'll work the first stitch first, get that out of the way, and then obviously the knit 2 together is basically just taking two stitches and you work them together as one. So now you've obtained 2 into 1. Just knit a couple more stitches there just to show you that again. So if your pattern says knit 2 together, you go through both of these loops and you make 2 into 1, and that is your easiest decreasing. If the pattern of course says turn 3 into 1, then of course you would take that one, and that one, so you would take the next 3 stitches. Try and get your needles through all of them. This is not easy with the wooden needles. And turn 3 into 1, and then that is a double decrease. Okay, so that is a double decrease. And it's obviously then if the pattern says 4 together or 5 together, it's the same thing, same process. So let's have a look now at the other decreases. So I'll just leave myself with a couple of stitches left there just to work these. Just get a bit more yarn. There we go. And I've just dropped it on the floor. Just get a bit more yarn there. I've got a few more stitches left on this needle. I may have to go back a bit. Let's just go back a little bit. Just tink back a little there. Aye. So your next decrease is your SKPO. You find that a lot on your UK patterns rather than an SSK, but we'll have a look at that now. It's still a single decrease, and you would look at this as a slip. You would knit 1, and then you would lift your slip stitch up, over and off the needle, just like casting off, and that is an SKPO. So just do that again for you. Slip, knit, and pass that slip stitch up and over and off the needle, and that again turns 2 into 1. The final decreasing, let's take that back another stitch. The final decreasing I'm going to show you today is the SSK, and that's exactly as it sounds. S, slip, S to slip, and you would knit, slip those knitwise, not purlwise. Then you take your left needle and you go into the front of those 2 stitches that you just slipped, and then you would knit them together through the back of that loop. There you go. So I'll just show you that again. Slip as to knit, slip as to knit, take your left needle, put it into the front of those 2 stitches that you just slipped, and it's just like that. And then you would knit them together through the back loop, and there you go. And that is doing them on the knit side. So That's taken quite a lot of stitches off there, hasn't it? Especially with the knit threes together in the middle. Next up, we'll turn over and just have a look at them from the purl side. So ready? So we'll just purl. Didn't have that in the right place really. We'll purl a couple. Right, so purl two together. It's easy, you just purl them together. Work the next two stitches as to be one, so you get your needle underneath both the stitches and purl them together. It would be the same if you was to do 3 stitches or 4. You would get your needle into all those stitches. And then the last to do on this is a slip slip purl. You slip them as to knit, and then purl them in the normal way. And then you add it as a purl knits then, didn't I? So that's how you would do a slip slip purl on the wrong side. So again, you would want them to work them twisted, so then you can untwist them like so. Okay. So that is a little bit of basics of decreasing, hopefully made more simple for you. And look at all these decreases. I had about 30 stitches on here to begin with. I have 11 left now. Really bringing that top in, isn't it? Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please give it a thumbs up. And until next time, here on Marks Makes. Bye.